Examining the timeline, I found that E. Howard Cadle's sudden rise to fame coincided with another historical event. While E. Howard Cadle was boasting about there was much to be found about E. Howard Cadle, Ed Jackson, and the sudden rise and fall of the Indiana sect of the Ku Klux Klan. But they were scattered and disconnected pieces of a much larger puzzle. I wondered, how did this information fit into the prophet's real life story? I found a 1940 article in the Jeffersonville Evening newspaper that I found to be very curious. The prophet vacated his pulpit for an entire summer. An unknown Reverend N.C. Guthrie took over the prophet's pastoral duties. The article mentioned evangelism in Milltown, Indiana, the name of a town that I remembered from recordings of the prophet. I quickly searched through the transcripts to find all of the prophet's statements about Milltown, and to my surprise, E. Howard Cadle was there when the prophet was preaching at Milltown. Even stranger, when the prophet was speaking to an audience in Chicago, Illinois, he claimed that he pastored a Baptist church in Milltown. I'd already established that he was a Pentecostal minister, not Baptist, and that Milltown was just one of many stops in an evangelistic tour. Why did he want listeners to think he was a Baptist from Milltown instead of a Pentecostal from Jeffersonville, near Cadle's first tabernacle chain? I found something interesting in a sermon the prophet preached in the Cadle Tabernacle. Sharing the pulpit with Reverend Jim Jones of People's Temple, where he prophesied God's blessing on Jones' ministry, the prophet claimed that E. Howard Cadle was looking for this day. Was the prophet alleging that Jones' involvement in the Cadle Tabernacle meetings were the result of a spiritual vision from E. Howard Cadle himself? The prophet returned to his own Pentecostal tabernacle after the summer evangelistic tour. The next year, he married his second wife, Meta Broy, in the home of Reverend Carney Carpenter. Like Cadle, Reverend Carpenter was a United Brethren Church minister. Cadle's tabernacle chain were all under the United Brethren umbrella, and the denomination did not exist in Louisville in southern Indiana until Louisville's first Cadle Tabernacle. Without Howard Cadle, there would not have been a Brethren minister in Jeffersonville to officiate their wedding. I stumbled across an article in the Nashville newspaper that I found to be interesting. In Nashville, several ministers revolted against Reverend Roy E. Davis for giving the false impression of being a United Brethren minister, and I wondered if the prophet was doing the same. According to a letter to the editor in the Tennessean, Davis was attempting to recruit Brethren Church members to his own revival. It read, "Mr. Davis in this communication accused me of several things of which I wish the public to have the right conception of. A committee composed of myself and 2 men paid Mr. Davis a friendly visit on last Saturday night and asked him to please stop using the name of the United Brethren Church when he was advertising his meetings, as he had been doing for some time. Several times, he had spoke of his meetings at the old United Brethren Church, to which was confusing to the public in general. And on one occasion, an announcement came out in the paper that read as follows: Republicans of North Nashville will meet tonight at the United Brethren Church, 10th Street and Chinathayan Avenue, to organize a Hoover Club. The Reverend Roy E. Davis, pastor of the church, is heading the organization. This announcement came out in Wednesday morning's Tennessean. I felt and still feel it was not fair to me, to the United Brethren Church, or even to Mr. Davis's church, to use the name of another denomination. The background to E. Howard Cadle was very revealing, but it raised more questions than it answered. Why did the prophet choose a Brethren minister for his second wedding? Was he joining forces with Cadle? Why did he claim to be a Baptist minister from Milltown? It was time to dig deeper into the prophet's early religious connections. The best place to start was by researching an evangelist that toured with the prophet starting in the 1940s. He was a man by the name of Fred Francis Bosworth.